Let me paint you a picture. It's kind of the nightmare scenario for any medium wave broadcaster. Your signal is clean, your pattern is perfect, and then, boom, a new building goes up, and suddenly your whole operation is a mess. Today we're diving into one of the trickiest technical problems out there, AM re-radiation. It's that unwanted echo that can mess up everything. And just so you know where we are, this is part 6 of our 10-part series on broadcast antenna systems. We're really getting into the weeds now, the real-world stuff that keeps engineers up at night. And believe me, AM re-radiation is a big one. So let's break it down. What exactly is this unwanted echo? How can some new structure just pop up and start interfering with a signal that's been solid for years? Let's get right to the heart of it. So imagine walking into the station one morning and you're getting complaints from a protected station. That's a station the FCC says you absolutely cannot interfere with. Your whole coverage area is all messed up, and the only thing that's different, that brand new cell tower they just put up a half-mile away. What is going on? Well, what's going on is AM re-radiation. In plain English, that new structure is acting like a giant antenna that it was never ever supposed to be. It's catching your signal and then just throwing it back out, but at a slightly different time. This creates this messy, complex interference that can put your broadcast license in real jeopardy. And the physics here is actually pretty wild. AM signals have these incredibly long wavelengths. We're talking hundreds of meters. So for a signal like that, even a 300-foot tower is electrically huge. It becomes what engineers call a parasitic element. It just soaks up your radio energy and spits it back out, causing all sorts of problems for your station's official pattern. Okay, so you've got a pretty strong hunch that re-radiation is the culprit. But a hunch isn't enough, right? You can't just point fingers. You need cold, hard data. And that means kicking off a systematic 5-step investigation to prove what's happening and figure out how bad the damage is. So here's the game plan. First, you got to figure out your baseline, what things should look like. Then, you analyze the actual field strength out there. After that, you model it all in software, design the fix, and finally, you roll it out and make sure it actually worked. It's a very methodical process. Look, those first 3 steps, they're all about building an airtight case. You dig up your old measurements to show what your pattern used to be. You take new readings to show what it looks like now, and then you use modeling software to prove without a doubt that the new tower is the problem. In this game, the data is absolutely everything. So once you've got that data, you've confirmed it. The problem is real. And this brings you to a huge decision, a real fork in the road with some serious financial consequences. The big question is, now what do you do about it? And it really boils down to this one critical choice. Do you fix the source of the problem, that new interfering tower? Or do you try to tear apart your own perfectly good broadcast pattern to try and compensate for it? It might sound like a tough call, but when you look at the numbers, the answer becomes crystal clear. And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? I mean, look at this. Detuning the other guy's tower might run you, say, 15 to 80 grand and take a few weeks. But trying to readjust your own pattern? You're talking 50 to maybe over 125 grand, a process that takes 6 months to a year, maybe more, plus station downtime and a whole lot of uncertainty with the FCC. So what's the bottom line here? It's not really a choice at all, is it? The data just screams the answer at you. Detuning that new tower is the only thing that makes sense. It's way faster, it's way cheaper, and it saves you from the massive risk of messing with your own license pattern. All right, so we've made our choice. We're going to detune that interfering tower. But how in the world do you actually do that? How do you tell a giant steel structure to just stop being an antenna? Well, this is where things get really clever. There are basically 3 main tools in the engineer's toolbox for this job. You can either insulate the tower's base from the ground, add these things called detuning skirts, or for the really big towers, you can actually chop it up into smaller, electrically separate sections. So let's quickly run through these. Base insulation is pretty straightforward. You just isolate the tower from the ground so current can't flow. Detuning skirts are a bit more complex. They're like adding a special metal collar that changes the tower's natural ringing frequency so it doesn't match yours. And sectionalization, that's the most involved. You literally break a tall tower into smaller, non-resonant pieces using giant insulators. And let's be clear, this is not a weekend project. I mean, just look at the kind of hardware we're talking about. Each of these solutions requires some serious precision engineering to change the fundamental electrical properties of a huge structure. And the price tag reflects that, starting around 15 grand and going way, way over $100,000 for the big jobs. Okay, we've spent all this time talking about the cure, but you know what they say about an ounce of prevention, right? The absolute best solution by a long shot is to make sure this problem never even happens, and that takes the solution out of the engineering bay and puts it into the planning office. And this is where the law comes in. It is absolutely critical to understand this. The FCC has very clear rules. The responsibility for preventing this mess lies squarely on the shoulders of the people building the new structure. They are required by law to figure out if they're going to cause a problem and fix it before they build. So the real takeaway here is huge. While all the engineering fixes are pretty cool, the ultimate solution isn't technical at all. It's procedural. It's all about proactive communication. It's about tower builders and broadcasters actually talking to each other before a single shovel hits the dirt. That can save everybody a ton of money and headaches. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Whether you're on the broadcasting side of the fence or the construction side, who are you talking to? Because in the world of AM radio, talking to each other early isn't just about being a good neighbor. It is the single best form of cost control you will ever find.